Good morning. It's a cool morning this morning. It's 30s-ish. Not the best day for working, but not too bad here in the shop. It's pretty windy out. I was going to shoot a little bit of coverage, and I'm going to have to shoot some of this series outside just because I'm not dragging a whole car in here to show you that. But most of this series I can shoot here in the shop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try something a little different. And all of these introductions are going to be exactly the same because I'm going to use this introduction for all of the series. But we're going to cover miscellaneous things, motor mounts, transmission bell housings and or transmissions. Let's see, we're going to go with 4-speed transmissions, the difference between A, B, C, E body. We're going to go over K-frames, the similarities and differences between big block and small block. So basically I'm going to do a little mini-series on big block and small block and the differences of the different parts you're going to need if you go from a small block to big block or vice versa. A lot of guys are switching over from small blocks to big blocks, and even a few crazy people that might want to go the other way. But so a lot of times not knowing will end up spending money where you don't have to. I've had a guy call me up. He's all excited because he bought this transmission at a great deal for a small block, and he didn't want it for 440. He had no idea that there was a difference between the big and the small block. So I'm going to do this little mini series, and I'm going to do little bitsy ones, little short ones on each item, and that way y'all don't have to waste a lot of time watching, 45 minutes of video if all you care about is what the difference between the motor mounts is. So I'll do a bunch of mini series, and then is that a word? Series? Well, anyway. And that way you can just tune into whichever one you want. But I'm also going to do one long one, which is going to cover all of these things, the transmissions and the motor mounts and the, bell houses and, K-frames and all that stuff. So that way you can watch the whole thing at once instead of having to tune into each mini-series. So go either way. Okay? So I'm going to stop talking now because nobody really wants to hear me talk. You guys just want to know what's what, right? So here we go. We're going to start with, doesn't really matter, does it? But we're probably going to start with the differences on the 4-speed transmissions between A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Of course, F and A are the same. So anyway, there's a million different, just tune in. We're going to start with this transmission, simply because it's on the bench, and if y'all remember, it should be out, just did a little series on changing the snout on this thing. We changed the, the output shaft, or input shaft. On that. So this is a B body only transmission. If you look at the tail shaft, you'll see that the shifter mechanism right here, or the shifter mounting bracket, is right here, right up against the case. It's like right there, like an inch at the most. It's right there. So that's a B body only. There's no other shift pattern on there. So this is for B bodies. Oh, and trucks. Trucks will also have that same position for the shifter. So B body and or trucks on the 833 4-speed. This one here is a little different. If you'll notice, it still has the pad here for the B-body and or truck. But if you scoot on down to the back end of the tail shaft, you'll see it's got a mounting bracket for an E-body. This would be E or C. And this particular one's not drilled, but it could have gone to E, drill these out, and you could put it in an E-body or a C-body. So B body, B, or C. That's a simple designation. Now I do not have an A body to show you. So I'm just going to kind of point it out and let you know if it's an A body, the tail shaft is going to be shorter. It'll be about here. It's going to be 4 to 6 inches shorter. And your shifter pad is going to be somewhere in this area. It's not going to be way up front like this one. Not going to be way in the back because this will be gone. That won't be there on an A body because it's shorter. And your shifter is going to be right about in this area. Okay? And you can, and I've actually thought about doing it, and now that I mention it, somebody's going to jump on it for me. I thought about building a bracket between here and here on these particular transmissions and put the mounting pad on that bracket so I could put these in an A body. Because this is so skinny. If you had a 727 in an A body, it would be the same length. So there's no reason why you can't put one of these in an A body, except for the shifter will be in the wrong place. So if you build a bracket from here to here, and put your bracket where it belongs, you'd be good to go. So maybe if I get some time, which probably will never happen, I may actually manufacture a bracket to do just that. And just for kicks and giggles, this particular transmission, she's beautiful, right? She's in great shape. If you look over here, it's got a different output shaft. And normally there's like a knuckle on there, like for a U-joint. And these are called ball and trunnion type transmissions. Now trucks also would come with that U-joint on the back end of it. So it doesn't have a slip yoke like, a regular slip yoke. It has what they call a ball and trunnion. And so these are for older, like 1965 and older cars or trucks that have that ball and trunnion on the back, or knuckle, some people call it. And so there's the differences in your 833 transmissions. Big block and small block motor mounts. Big block, small block. Now, at first you say, oh well, yeah, that's way different. That looks a lot different. And it does. But there's more significant ways to tell other than that. For one, big block is longer, roughly 7 inches. Small block, 6 inches. Okay, 5 3/4 on that one. Good 6 3/4 on this one. Okay, so big block, bigger. Makes it easier, right? Big block's going to be bigger. Now, another difference is, if you'll notice, the big block, both sets of holes are kind of going that way, right? When I put them side by side, both sets of holes are, if I'm standing this way, well, this is going to be your left hand, because of this piece right here reinforces it because the torque is pulling on that side, I'm assuming. So your left hand is always going to have this piece of tubing in there, okay, to reinforce it. And these are more towards the middle, but they're still going to be towards that side when you put them together like this. This one is a little more that away and no support. So this is going to be your right hand. Actually, it doesn't even have a hole on that side, okay? And so that's one of the easiest ways to tell. So length, and then both of your holes are basically on one particular side. Your small block, if you'll notice, one set of holes is towards that way, but the other set of holes is on this side. See, the holes are over here. So when you lay them side by side like this, the holes are going to go opposite directions. Okay? I don't know. I can't even do that. Yeah, they're like that. There we go. Anyway, they go in 2 different directions. There we go. That way. So you got them going opposite sides. So the small block opposite sides, shorter. And now sometimes you will get a tube in here. I've not seen any, but sometimes I imagine you can, maybe on a 340 application or something like that. But it'd be weird because it would actually almost interfere with this. But I have had a few times when I couldn't get them out, so that's a very distinct possibility. But don't quote me on that one. But there's your major differences on your small block and big block. And again, the small block's got this weird little kick out here. I've seen some that are not quite as distinct, but it is pretty much that way. So these are definitely going to be longer and shorter. Now there's one more type of motor mount that we want to talk about, and it starts in 1973 with the B bodies. But after 74 or 5, I think it's 74, almost everything, just your C bodies, your A body, everything started coming with this style. And I forget exactly what they call this. It's some kind of a, daggum it, I can't remember the name of it, but regardless, it comes with this round kind of bushing, okay? And this is a small block one, and the easiest way to tell on the small block one is exactly like the earlier 72 and down mounts, is your small block is going to be shorter. Now this one's 6 inches. Imagine that, just like the other side, just the earlier ones. The big blocks are going to be, 7-ish, a little bit longer, and some of the big blocks will actually have 3 of these holes in the top. I don't know if you can see those, but see these holes? The big blocks, one side's going to have 3 of those, and just like your earlier ones, your big block is also going to have this tube in here, okay, on the left-hand side. So keep that in mind. So if you're looking for this style, these are rarer than hen's teeth. I do believe they're reproducing them. I did a little research online to make sure I wasn't misleading any of you all on the motor mount deal here. So the big blocks are available, reproduction. Of course, they say that, but with this whole COVID thing, it's a crapshoot. But That's the major difference. Again, big block is bigger. And that's really what it boils down to. It's going to be longer, not necessarily wider, because if you look at the small block on these, it's actually wider. So don't go with width. Make sure you go with length. But same with these, longer ones are big block, and good luck trying to find those. Unless, of course, thank God they're all making them new at this point. Whether or not you can get any or not, that's going to be the question. So there you go. That should cover pretty much all your big block, small block stuff. Small blocks, shorter. But if you can't remember shorter, because it's an inch, right? So if you can't remember shorter, longer, remember opposite. Did I do that? How did I do that? Opposite. You know, if your bolt holes, when you lay them side by side, if your bolt holes are going two different directions, small block, right? That's probably the easiest way to remember it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Is 727 and or 904. It's going to be the same. Big block and or small block. I don't believe they put 904s behind big blocks. Anyway, so we're just going to cover the 727. All right, the easiest way to tell, and for quick reference, obviously, is right here. These two top bolts. If you look, the big block, just about, let's see, right about 7 inches. If you look at the small block, it's about 8. Okay? So my easiest way of referencing it is my hand. Okay? I will take my hand and I can touch both. Of course, it depends how big your hand is, but I can touch both of these. I can cover both of these holes with my fingertips. Okay? On the big block. On the small block, I can't. That's the best I can get it. It's like almost quite. So I know when I'm going to a swap meet, I don't have to carry a tape measure. I just take my hand. And if I can cover both holes with my fingertips, well, thumb and finger, then I know I've got a big block. If I can't, then I know I've got a small block. It's a nice quick reference on your transmissions to know if you've got a big block or a small block transmission. And that's probably the easiest way to tell. Of course, you can always carry a tape measure. And it was 7 inches on the big block, 8 inches on the small block. It's almost too easy, right? I got to come up with something more complex than that. But yeah, that's pretty much it, folks. And I don't know if there's anything else, but if I can think of it, we'll cover some more stuff. Just so I can confuse you, this is a 72, which is the last year for this style K-frame in the B-body. Okay, and if you have a 72, 66 to 72 B-body or A-body or any E-body, you're going to have this style K-frame. And this is the same small block or big block. So there you go. That was simple, right? But now we got to get into the 73 and newer, which goes to a full floating type cave member, and we'll explain that in a second. Here's the difference between a big block and a small block K-frame. Starting with this side, if you'll notice, this is the big block. You'll notice right here, there's about a ½ an inch between this little edge and this and the K-frame. Okay, now you can measure it if you want to, and I'll go ahead and give you some measurements real quick. Here's the other side. This is the driver's side. Okay, and if you'll notice, the driver's side is right on the edge. See the edge of the K-frame right here? And it's right on the edge. Right here. Lines up with that. Okay? So if you look at the K-frame overall, this is right on the edge. And then this is about a ½ inch back from the front edge. Okay? And just for kicks, we'll go ahead and dig out a measuring tape. Alright. Measuring tape from the edge to the front edge is going to be, well, front edge would be over here, but it's roughly 5 inches. Okay, same here. From here to the edge on the passenger side is going to be roughly 3.5. Okay, so take a good look at that. This is your big block K-frame, K-member, or engine cradle is the proper term. Here's your classic small block. Now at first glance, doesn't look much different, right? So let's start with our passenger side. Remember that little edge I was telling you about? Man, this lighting is horrible. Here we go. Look at this. it's kind of, yeah, let me see if I get better lighting. This is terrible. We're outside, so there we go. So here's the front edge, and look, this is actually hanging over the front edge, okay? Now, if we go over to the other side, remember we were talking about the front edge of this, and there's just too many shadows. Right here, this front edge. Well, look at where the edge of the K-member is on the back side. See the difference? The big block would be back here, but this is coming about an inch or so over towards the front. So the big block is set back further if you want to, if you will. So I'm going to hit the thing supporting the hood, and then the hood would come crashing down on my head, and that probably wouldn't be good. But let's go ahead and give you the quick measurement. Sorry about the camera going all crazy. Alright, so here we go. To the edge. What is it? Not even 2 3/4 inches from the front of that to the front of the K-member. So 2 3/4. We come over here and to the front edge. Of course, I'm taking all sorts of shadows here. And we're going to be looking at about 3 1/4 from the front of that motor mount. So basically your small block is going to be, boy, shadows, terrible. Your small block is going to be further forward on the car, and your big block is going to be further back. That's the easiest way to remember it. So on these, if you look at the video on the motor mounts, you'll see the difference too. The big block mounts are longer, and the K-frame is going to be set further back. Unlike its 72 and older partner, you need to let me try that in English. You need another K-frame if you're going to go from big block to small block. I think they are making conversion mounts. Might be cheaper. Don't know. I would just change K-frame, but if you can't find one, then that's an option. So small block, big block K-frames on 73 and up are different. Well, that's pretty much it. Covered all the things I wanted to cover. You can look at each individual video on one component, or you can watch the finale one that covers all the different applications, if you will. So sorry about the sniffling and the hat and the gloves, but it's kind of cold out here. Hopefully spring will come quickly, and that'll be that. We can get back to doing the fun stuff that freeze to death while you're working. Yeah, I'm a sissy. Don't like the cold, but I'm actually kind of cozy and warm right now. But it's hard to work with gloves. Yeah, So anyway, thank you for watching. Do me a favor and subscribe. Y'all are awesome.